Claude from Design for Life. You can find me on Instagram at designforlife14. Today, I'll be teaching you how to level up your pumpkin carving skills with a simple set of tools. The point of today's video is to get you thinking outside the traditional jack-o'-lantern and sculpting in a new way. We're going to review the simple set of tools that you need in order to sculpt the pumpkin today. We're going to review sculpting eyes, a nose, a mouth, and teeth if we have time. So let's get going, and I hope you enjoy learning expert tips from this amateur carver. Let's go. So I put together a quick sketch of what I'm hoping to accomplish today. This is merely a guideline of what the pumpkin might end up like. Again, I'm an amateur carver, so there's no guarantees that this is the face that we'll end up with. What I'm shooting for are two asymmetrical eyeballs, left being a little bit bigger than the right because I don't want to focus on symmetry. A big wonky nose, maybe with a wart, and then a simple mouth. We're not going to shoot for lip definition, more like Simpsons lips, you know? Just basic roundovers. We are going to have a little bit of a pouty lip going on down here, and if we have time, we're going to shoot for some gums and a few teeth. These are the tools that you will need for today's carve. I've got a safety knife and a scooper out of those pumpkin carving kits you can find at any local grocery store. Ribbon peelers, traditionally used for clay, small ones. I've got one round and one triangular. Large ribbon peelers, I've got a double-ended one with a round and a square or triangular bit, and then a large one that they typically come oblong and asymmetrical, and you'll get different shapes out of each side, so you know, hold it different ways, try different things with all of your tools. I have an X-Acto blade with a new blade in it, so it's very sharp. Please be careful. Those are just for detail cuts, so you'll probably be able to share with your neighbor. And also a spade bit. I use about 3/8, a half, 3/4. It doesn't really matter. You can mix and match. Also, not everyone needs these. It's just for the pupil eye detail, and that'll be at the end. So share them. Not everyone needs them. I have a traditional sponge with a Scotch-Brite side. It's not even a new one. It's an old one. And we'll use the Scotch-Brite side to smooth the flesh of the pumpkin underneath the skin once we're pretty much about done with the carve. I use a mirror for reference, especially if I'm carving by myself. Look in it to figure out profiles, where depths of face should be, just a good reminder. If you don't have a mirror, use your phone, take selfies. I'll stick to these tools, and let's get shaping. The brown spot indicates where the pumpkin was in contact with the ground. So this is the top of the pumpkin, and the meatiest parts of the pumpkin will be on either side. So pick either this side or this side for your pumpkin carving. If we're carving on this face of the pumpkin, we have to make a hatch for candles and access to guts. Either completely opposite of that, you can do it. We're not going to go for a round shape or a perfect square. Something irregular like a puzzle piece. And also, when you're cutting into your pumpkin, you don't want to be completely plumb with it. You want to be at like a 30 or 45 so that it kind of acts as like a wedge that is going to go into the pumpkin and not get pushed through into side of your pumpkin. Let's get going. Don't forget to angle and make sure it's big enough for your pawpaw to get in to reach all the guts. Sometimes I like a flat bottom girl. I guess we're going for a house shape here. Why not? Maybe we'll just omit that chimney. That sounds good. Sorry everything is so wiggly right now. It will get better later. I promise. Did I make it big enough for my pawpaw again? See? So many. It doesn't matter. This is the back side. But check your corners. She's free. You pull that out. Oh, that was unmonumental whatsoever. I was hoping some guts were gonna get stuck on there. I'm gonna pull this extra rind out because I cut it, but all this loose stuff, just cut that off. Watch your fingers. Cut away from yourself. And then, as I had suspected, that's probably going to be tight for my pawpaw. But the important thing right now is you can see how thick that pumpkin is on the side. We got probably a good inch of carving on this pumpkin. It'll start getting mealy in here, and it's not fun to carve that, so you're going to want to stick from about this point outward. So got 3/4 of an inch to an inch that we get to carve through, so that's awesome. Great point of punching through to the pumpkin. Clean this up a bit. And that's just making a bigger hole for my fat hand to get in. Ooh, it's kind of spongy. This is where we use the scoop in hand, and we only really need to get a clear spot on the back side of the mouth because that's the only place where we're going to put a punch out, and also the bottom so we can set a candle. Otherwise, I mean, we don't have to go crazy cleaning this guy out. You all know how to clean them out. Give it a good scrape on the back side of where you intend to carve to get some of that guts and the mealiness off and to thin the pumpkin out. So if you're trying to get light to shine through, but not too much, because you also want to preserve some thickness when you're trying to carve things like noses or eyeballs. Give it a good scrape. Like we said, we're not going to go crazy here. This is pretty much good. If you peer in there, on the opposite side of this hole, great for the carving, for the punch through, it'll be clean. And the bottom is pretty cleaned out, aside from a few pumpkin seeds, but they won't hurt nobody. And then we got this little dangly gut guy, and he's just going to add to the mess. So I think it's good. Let's get carving. So now I'm taking my large ribbon peeler, and we're essentially just going to peel the pumpkin skin off. I don't know if you can tell, but I like to work on the corner of the table because it gives my hands more free-flowing motion. I'm not interrupted by the table. If you were in the middle, every time you would want to go around the side, you're kind of stuck hitting the table or rotating your pumpkin. You have more range of motion on your face of your pumpkin. So this is the back. So we're shooting for right about here, and you'll start just framing the face. This shouldn't take long, and don't be shy, just jump in. we'll end up going back later and getting what we need to as we go, but I think that looks pretty good. Get under here on his chin bit, and you want to preserve some of that, so not too much. We're just peeling the skin off again. Done. I'm etching the face onto the pumpkin. I'm dragging the tool barely through the pumpkin. I'm giving myself a grid line, and these lines, as we push and pull the face of the pumpkin through, they'll change. You won't end up seeing them because we're going to move that mass of pumpkin. So I'm just kind of giving myself, splitting the face up into quarters, or that's where that big nose is going to be. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm barely dragging through. I can see lines, so it's etched where the face is going to end up being. The bridge of the nose. And if these lines end up going where you don't necessarily want them to be, like this nostril's way bigger than this nostril, it's okay. We can still change that. Again, because we're pushing a lot of this mass back in. So let's do his misshaped eyeballs. This guy's gonna be like a big round guy, and his eyebrow is gonna come through kind of big like this, and that's enough. And I guess that's gotta get a little bit more rounded. See? Already. Moving lines, moving lines. That's like his lower lid, and that continues through onto the cheek. Let's do his other eye. And again, we're not trying for symmetry here. We're purposely making this one a bit smaller. And maybe a little squintier. So we'll bring that lower lid up a little bit more. So there's that. And his nose. So then you've got some cheek here. So we're going to sit here and do the mouth. Let's see if we can rotate this up a bit. If you have a towel or a t-shirt, you can prop that underneath your pumpkin if you need to change the angle. And we're just gonna kind of do a weight here, kind of a dog bone or a dumbbell shape. Maybe a little bit bigger on this side. Again, not shooting for symmetry. His jowl lines will come down around his mouth. And we're going to shoot for some like Simpsons lips. So we won't have a defined upper lip. It'll be just kind of like rounded under. We will give him a little bit of a pouty lip. And we don't have much room for our chin, so we're probably just going to omit that this time. But if you have a little bit of a taller pumpkin, play with your chin line in here. So that concludes our pumpkin sculpting demo for today. Nah, I'm just kidding. At this point, you should have your face etched into your pumpkin. It's not very deep lines at all. We're going to start pushing these planes of the face back and preserving the tip of the nose, the eyeballs, kind of the outer cheek area, and this whole mouth has got to get pushed in because that's got to be way lower than this nose piece. But we still have to preserve some of this material here to carve teeth and lips. So we're going to start with the medium ribbon tooler, double-ended, and we'll be kind of going back and forth, both shapes. And as we said, is we're going to start rounding that eye and the bridge of the nose out and the eyebrow out and bringing those two planes, and we're going to start rounding those shapes and creating that crevice. And then we'll switch back to the small tooler and define those lines again as they start to disappear. It'll make sense as we get going. So let's go. I hope everyone's excited. So we're going to start just rounding these eye shapes in. Make it round, make it round, make it round. Pull your sculpt tool and just start rounding that guy over gradually. Everything is going to be gradual, not too much all at once. So that's how you'll be able to also move these shapes if you're not necessarily happy with where they're lining up. I'm also not putting a lot of pressure on the tool right now. It's basically just riding the surface of the pumpkin and carving away what's on the surface. We'll round over this other eye. Now that brow has got to go through, but kind of the whole eye is going to end up being rounded because it's an extension of the eye, so it's going to be like a ball altogether. But as you create this lower lid, you'll also kind of round it out. Gradual. So just a little bit there. I think we gotta finish rounding this eyeball at this level. We're not getting too far. Okay, good. So now, like we said, is now we've rounded those eyes in, we've got to round the eyelids out. So just gradual, not too much. And the brow line, round that out, creating that butt shape that we talked about earlier. Butt dance, butt dance. Now this is where his eyebrow is going to be. So where I've got this top line coming up, you can kind of define that a little bit more, preserving that brow, because that's going to be kind of the furthest most out point. And you're just going to feather back the forehead into these edge lines here. You don't want to take too much out. You want this will almost look like a natural hairline already. I'm just going to start pulling material away from his nose, because I know that the plane of his mouth has to be back further from his nose. And we remember from cutting the hole on the back side, we've got about 3/4 to an inch of material to start working through. But I don't want to go crazy because I still want to keep these lines intact. We're defining that lip and pushing below the lip backwards. And this is his lower lip here. And this has to get pushed back, yeah. The lip down, round the inside of the mouth up, so that we're defining those two shapes as we're pushing it back. So now we're at a point where we can barely see what our thing is because I just started carving his tooth. So we're going to take our small ribbon tooler and start etching this face in again. And we're just going to push these lines a little bit deeper in so that we know where we're at with things. And this eyelid. Again, it's just the little corner bit of the tool, and we're just pushing hardly anything. It's mainly the tool that's coming down. And these jowl lines come down. Also, the pumpkin has grain, so sometimes it's easier one way than it is the other way. So it's a mixture of what's comfortable for you to carve, your range of motion, and also what the pumpkin's gonna allow you to do. You'll hit spots where you're gonna have a little bit of difficulty. But there's the mouth, and we can already see his pouty lip is coming through pretty good. Now that we've got it all etched in there pretty good, we're gonna go back to our large ribbon tooler and just start pushing these lines back even further. This whole lower eyeball to the right of the nose has to come back quite a bit. But you want that eyeball to be round yet, but you know you're going to end up pushing back because you want your nose out. This nostril's got to get pushed back. And this nose has got to get rounded a little bit more as we push back each layer. You can switch to the round if you want. Is that make it easier for you to maintain that round shape? That nostrils gotta get pulled back. As does this one. We've pushed that nose back about as far as it wants to go, so before we lose those lines, we're going to push with our small ribbon tooler back again. Push that nose in. Again, however your body wants to move around the pumpkin. Push this back. You should be, I know things are not symmetrical, but as you're doing one side of the face, it's almost easiest to do the other side. It's similar shape, it's opposite. Here goes our picture. The wind is picking up, man. We might have to be heading inside here soon. Switch to the round side. And there's another one of the small detail lines, and we'll just push that die back. Here's that lower lid. Square side. I want to start defining the bridge of this nose a little bit better, and up into the brow, and then you reverse for the other side as you pulling it up. This eye has got to get pushed back from the bridge of the nose yet. So we'll be pushing that back. Rounding, rounding. Maybe use our round M. You can see that eyeball shape is starting to come to life. And just push that brow back. And thin out that line. Smooth out that line as you go to the forehead. So this nose has got to get a little bit redefined. So that's a great lesson for us. Just rounding, rounding. Now this jowl space here should actually be lower than that plane there, than the cheek plane. Trying to pull this nose through a little bit. Deeper, deeper. And as you're getting down to the nose corners, and you start scraping that out, start pushing down, and you can, if you start to feel the pumpkin flex, that's bad news bears. Hopefully we are not at that point on your pumpkin. I think we're gonna start using the round side here. And just trying to create that nostril shape. We're starting to push that back. I think this guy is going to get pushed back more in relation to where that nostril is going to be. And kind of cut up where the eye is. Because he's going to have like a some saggy eyes there. Let's start working on pushing the lip plane down. Just slow and steady. Again, keep an eye on your depth here. If you start seeing some flexing, you gotta think that you're probably almost about done taking material away. And you gotta start thinking about your finish. But I'm not there yet. I'm just saying if yours is starting to flex, you gotta keep that into consideration. I don't know how thick your pumpkins are. Hopefully big, thick guys. Big, meaty pumpkins. Lots of material and depth. So we're just gonna start scraping this jowl line back. Pouty lip, because that's staying out as far as we can. Not doing a whole lot to it, just rounding it. Trying to get it some shape as it goes back. And pushing the surrounding areas back so it looks like it's coming out. Okay, so this is the cutout and where the teeth are going to be. So we actually have to push that back even further, slash cut it out, but I don't want to start like losing these lines. Gradually start pushing that back, but you can still see, and you have your small tooler. Dig those lines in. You don't want to lose them. I'm just going to keep pushing these planes back. Sorry. Look at that. Nice ribbon. Nope, not so nice. This is the way it always works out. And you see that? I think that's where the original line was. I just opened it up because we're still pushing meat back. So if you still want to change some of your lines, some of your angles, go for it if you've got the room to do so. So you can see we've pronounced a little bit better where that lip is going to be. While we've got our small tool out, let's re-pronounce these eyes and where the nose is going to be. There's that guy. See right there? Correction. And swoop the whole nose. If you can do it in one loop, that's why I say, like, figure out how your body likes to move around the pumpkin. This back here, I started moving that bridge line in too far away from the nose, and it was not the way that that was supposed to go. So fix it. This guy. That one's just going to be a little bit. So we're starting to, as well as the upper brow, we're not wanting to push back so much because we're almost at that finish point up here. So don't push that so much. Got a big chunky eyebrow here. And we're just acting like the lower lid and the eyeball are all one round surface, because they are. And then redefine where that lid is. And his brow has got to come back down. Pull that meat. See, we're probably right about where we're gonna be around his nose. Just shaping that nostril because we can't push this point back any further. But we want that nostril to be lower than this guy is. Just rounding his nose a bit. And that other nostril. That's starting to round out pretty nice. I want to bring this proud of this. So I'm just going to round some more here. Can't go too much further right there. So this is getting to be about finished depth on that nose. And that's what it is. If you want a deeper nose, you can always, super glue works really well with the pumpkin because the moisture, but you can super glue a bit on and you'll get more depth for your pumpkin, but that's about what you're gonna end up getting out of this one without adding a piece on. Pull that nose down. So you don't want to go any deeper here, but you can ditch and pull this shape in if you like. And I like. Okay, match that on the other side. It's a little bit better shape of a nostril. And we got still some more meat here that we can get rid of and through the jowls. We're not gonna have time to do teeth this time, so we're just gonna cut those out. We gotta cut our losses. I was gonna try and make this video about an hour. I don't think we're gonna make it, and we definitely don't have time for teeth. So maybe another time we can do a demo for teeth. But this is gonna help us out here. He's just screaming like, ah! You can push the knife kind of back at a 45 instead of plumb to the pumpkin, 45 it, and it cleans out that cut so much nicer. If you guys want to take time and try and do teeth, it's the same concept that we've been reviewing the entire time. Don't cut your teeth out if you don't want to. Feel free to shape them in, carve them out. It's just playing with your depths, and I'm sure that Miss Edwards can help you with that. If you want to take a sharper knife and get rid of some more of that rind. Do-do-do, do-do-do. Okay. And we're just shaping the inside of the lip. And cutting this down. And before I get carried away there, we should work on pushing this back a little bit more. But I can feel here I've only got maybe a ½ inch, so this is basically where it's at, because I don't want to go much further. We're not going to have great texture to work with here. This poor pumpkin head. I can just rotate that. And as you pull that out, maybe don't hit all the way to the edge, and you can kind of shape the lip if you'd like to. Otherwise, you can just like round it. And like we said, they are Simpsons lips. Just kind of round it over. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is still a spectacular pumpkin. Spooktacular pumpkin. Need some rounding here. Let's get realigned. And you can kind of back carve that lip so that stays more pronounced, and then you're going to want to get rid of this. Let's see, once you can once you've sculpted the face enough and you've got the basic structure there, then you can finally do the cutouts. You don't want to do them too soon because you don't want to sculpt this with a giant cutout. It makes it harder to sculpt that out on you. You know? And so we're going to take the small ribbon tooler and figure out this jowline a little bit. And just like that, we're going to push that material back like we are. These smaller ones are a bit sharper. They're great for cutting more defined lines, but kind of moving more material, those other ones are good, or the medium size ribbon tooler. Also, once you've gotten through, you can kind of hold it and figure out where you are in thickness and depth as well. I know I said that that shouldn't come down anymore, but I really want it to. See, too far. The lip is getting a little bit too. So I've got to round this over a bit and push that jowl line in. Really, this end is just continuing to shape and contour and scrape and push. And see that piece of pumpkin is being naughty because I'm getting further and further into it. We're going to use this small ribbon tooler to define that cheek line there, and that's going to be pretty much done once I can move this hair. That's pretty much good there. Maybe round this lip a little bit more. Again, you could go forever on details, so it is whatever you want it to be. Some people would have stopped a while ago. Most of my carves take probably 3 hours minimum, and then go on up. I've done one that was like 12 hours, 18 hours. last fall. That was a lot of fun. Not straight, obviously, but a lot of fun. And I hope that everyone just gets a different perspective of carving out of this video and try something new. I also hope that if you finish your pumpkin, when you finish your pumpkin, you give a picture of it to Mrs. Edwards, and maybe she'll post that on Instagram so I can see what you guys all came up with. And when you get closer to Halloween and you're carving your pumpkins at home, hope you have a good time. And I hope you use some of the new skills that you learned here today. Oops. See? So there's the lip. Sorry, thought I was done there, but I'm not. Small ribbon tooler, and we're gonna start to define that nose. And like I've said previously, if you can do it in one run, do it. If you can't, do it in 3 humps. 1, 2, 3. Just makes it a little bit smoother of a carve. And then the nook up by that nostril. Smooth out the lower lip. And then round it up. So that this and get that corner out too. And maybe you want to pull that in a little bit more. You can feel free to do so. But we're just shaping, rounding that nose. Okay, we gotta get some lines in there a little bit more. Still have some good depth too. So we're gonna pull this out. Left hand can do something. See, this spot is giving me so much trouble. It wants to be shaved that way or cut at this point because the grain is pulling it. Don't forget to brush your teeth. That's gotta get rounded a little bit. And where's that? I haven't used it a whole lot, but right down the center line. You wanna pull that, and also where the nostril is gonna be, pop them in some holes. I'm trying to do that from a different angle, but right where it, and you know, everyone's got different nostrils, so check it out. And then just start, you know, rounding. Toothbrush. Oh, yep. Yep, starting to come together, starting to come together. It's a mealy right here, so I'm just gonna cut this piece rather than shave it because I know it's gonna give me a better line. Get the smaller guy. Again, they're sharper, so they're gonna cut a better line. At least mine are sharper. Okay. Eyeballs. This here needs to go down. So we're gonna put that down and round to the bridge of the nose. It's starting to look a little bit better. And then I think this bottom lid could afford to be put back a little bit more. Again, it's all about feel. Look in the mirror, look in your phone, get a feel for what it should be looking like, but also these are just cartoons and we're just having fun, so don't be too serious about it. Have fun. It works if we're turning it around. Get that guy. Starting to get that cheek out. Yep. I'm going to start rounding this eye a little bit more. We still have plenty of depth there. And round into the eyebrow. And we're shaping that eye, and we're rounding it. And right there's the brow. And as you cut it deeper, you're still just rounding up. And we're pretty good as far as depth goes, meaning we're probably not going to go any further. This is what we've got. What you can do is angle the eyes. If you want them to look like they're more sunken in, you're going to take the top bit of the eye out, still rounding it overall, but it kind of pushes it back beneath the brow. See? And right there you've got the eyelid. And if you want to cut it a little bit more with your small tool and then round it up. And then we've got to do a little bit more detail as you get out to the corner of the eye, feathering it out. But be careful, your pieces are getting smaller. This whole piece can come out. Do a little bit more rounding here on the eyeball. But you're pretty much about there. So maybe get my medium tool out and push this plane back just a hair to meet the hairline. Do you see what I did there, kids? And there's the bit of the eye. And this eyelid could afford to be put back a little bit more as it's coming underneath the top one. Switch back to your small tooler. Oh, and I picked up the round one. See, just play with all your tools and see what each of them do. Can't neglect any of them. And you're just gonna tweak and fine tune this. Cheek has to come back to meet the temple line. That's pretty good. Pull this surface back, I would say. And Mrs. Edwards is going to be a wonderful guide as far as how face structure goes. Her work is impeccable, and she'd probably be able to tell you about these planes a little bit better than I can, as far as where they should all be. But as you start scratching these together, they'll start to make more sense of where things should be. But we are there, so we can't go any further. We're pretty much there. That eye is doing pretty good. So what we're gonna do is grab a small detailer around that nose like we've done before and thought we were done. Now that should be a soft line, so I'm pretty happy with the way that that looks. We are doing pretty good here. But now, this is where we grab your X-Acto blade. Okay? You want to be comfortable so that you can make the curve in one swoop, if you can. And what we're going to end up doing is you're going to cut straight, and then you're going to cut at an angle. So we're going to take the tiniest piece of pie out, and it makes a defined line. So again, we're gonna cut straight down, only a little bit, not through the pumpkin, straight. Pay attention to where that line was, and then just follow the curve of your eyeball and come around. And then you're gonna pull that little sliver of pumpkin out. Now, you might have to rotate and fix that line a little bit, but you don't want to do it too thick. These are just detail lines. So that's the bottom of the eye, and now we're going to do it to the top lid. Again, plumb cut. Follow the eyeball. And then kind of out by the lid, you can make a little bit of a detail line. And then just use your X-Acto knife and pull that guy out. Wow, look, see how that just popped? Now there's a little bit of a line here that I want to get rid of. You can either run your X-Acto along his top brow and scoop that out, or you could be able to clean it up just a hair with your small ribbon tooler. Careful, not too much. So there's his eye. Geez, that has popped. Just now you got to figure out what direction you want him to be looking in. Is he looking right at the viewer? What's going on here? So no drill required for this. And then as you're pushing it in, just twist it. And it'll start to cut the rind as you're going in. Don't do this with a drill, just your hand. And you can already see that's added some pretty amazing depth. And whoop. Take your X-Acto, and we're not doing a whole lot here. Smallest little amount, just to make that cut sharp and you don't have eye boogers. Okay, that's that. Repeat this on this side. Just start pushing that eyeball back, define that line, keep shaping it, circle, circle, eyebrow, eyebrow, push this cheek back a little bit, and then we'll cut the lines, and then we'll put his eyeball in. I almost forgot a really important step. You just want to polish this guy up, and it's okay if there's sponge boogers on your pumpkin. You can rinse it off with water later, and actually that's a good thing, because once you're done rinsing it, see, that just smooths it right out. So nice. After you've rinsed it, spray it with a little Clorox, or put Clorox on a paper towel and put it over the whole face of your pumpkin, and it helps preserve it. It'll last a little bit longer. It kills the bacteria on it. Spray the inside of the pumpkin, the backside, the porthole. Spray all inside of the pumpkin, anything exposed, because that's going to start to grow mold, and that's what kills your pumpkin. If you want to do it on a daily basis, rinse it and Clorox it again or whatever. It's it'll probably last that much longer. Again, those eye boogers aren't going to be an issue. Finish this other eye. Go. I hope you enjoyed carving along, or at least just watching this video. If you did carve along, I'm interested to see what you came up with. Please tag me on Instagram at designforlife14. That's DEZIGN 4 LIFE 14. Make sure you have a safe and spooktacular Halloween.